Hello, I'm Shaka the Baka, and today I'm here to give you a modding tutorial for the game Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. And today, we're going to specifically be focusing on how to music mod the Blade Wolf boss fight, as I think it's a good entry point for modding this game. Now, I'm going to be assuming that you have absolutely zero experience with MGR whatsoever, or modding MGR I should say. So here I have the bare necessities you're going to need. Technically this one isn't necessary, but these are going to be the things that you absolutely need in order to continue with this tutorial. First of all, you're going to want to download F-servo, specifically the MGRR fork. It should be F-servo MGRR fork 1.4.3 that you're going to want to download. I have it downloaded right here. I'll make sure to put a link in the description for you. And then you're also going to want... I'll explain this as program does later, by the way. I won't be explaining its purpose quite yet. You're also going to want this application, which you can only find in the Discord server. If you want this, you're going to have to join the Discord server, and then just go to the forum where this is posted. Because I'm not really sure if I can share this in like a Google Drive or whatever. And then optionally, but you can also download this program, again, just in the Discord server, which will convert WEM files into WAV files, or the other way around. This is very handy just for general modding, but it is not necessary. And and of course you're going to need the actual game, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Now, first of all, we're going to begin from the very basics, right? And like I said, I'm just going to assume you have no experience. What is the first thing you're going to want to do? Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use this tool, Crypack GUI, or GUI. I like saying GUI though, and then you're just going to want to run it. Now, what this program does is it can extract these files called CPK files. And so, if we go into... Sorry, maybe I'm being a little fast. If we go into the Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance folder, and then we go specifically into the folder called Game Data, we're going to see all these files here, right? Ignore the stuff down here. But more importantly, you're going to see all these files. Notice the extensions. These are CPK files, and they're what we're looking for. Now, the first one that we're going to want to put our eyes onto is data001.cpk. This CPK, among a lot of other things, actually most moddable things, to be honest, this CPK has any and all music modding related stuff inside of it. So we're going to want to pull up that tool, right? Click File. I clicked the wrong thing. Click Open CPK, and then we're just going to feed it the directory. I click this, and then I do copy, and then I just do paste right here, and then boom. We just select a CPK file, specifically data001.cpk, and then it'll give you all of these files inside of the CPK. You don't need to worry about this. The only important part to us is just clicking Extract Files. And I usually do it in the same directory, but you can choose a different directory to put these files if you'd like. We're going to wait just a moment. Even if you have a medium-end PC, it still shouldn't take too long. I have a relatively high-end one, comparatively to other modders. So as you can see, it is already done. We can just close this tool. And now we have the folder, the CPK file, unpacked. And we can crack open this bad boy. Now, you're going to see all of these files. So I actually forgot to bring this up earlier, but what these folders represent are different files in the game. So the reason why the files with ST and whatever number are relevant to us is because they're in accordance with like the level. So the reason why we wanted to go into ST1 was because, you know, in RO1, the first level of the game, that's where you fight Blade Wolf. Then RO2, you get the idea. RO3, RO4, you know, the Armstrong fight, or RO7. I neglected to bring this up earlier. I just thought I'd clarify that real quick, that's all. But the only folder we're going to need to care about whatsoever is the folder ST2. This is because it's going to have the Blade Wolf boss fight music inside of it. Now, you might be wondering, what the hell do I do with all these files? What the hell is a DAT file? What the hell is a DTT? Now, for the purposes of this tutorial, it's not necessary actually for music modding in general. It's not necessary to know what these are, but I'll quickly explain them. DAT files are also just folder files. They store data inside them, hence the name DAT. DTT files literally just have textures in them. It's as basic as that. But for our objectives, for the things that we want, we need to identify the DAT file, the container file for other files. We need to identify which one has the B&K in question for the Bladewolf boss fight. I'll explain what a B&K is in a moment. Now, you're probably wondering, how the hell are we even going to find that? Where do we even start? Now, that's actually where I lied. We are actually going to have to open CryPack GUI again, and then we're going to want to unpack the CPK data 002. I'm going to unpack that real quick. Okay, now that we have data 002.cpk unpacked, we're just going to open this bad boy up, go into debug, and then go to sound. Now, this is where things get interesting. This is where the juicy part comes. Now, notice how these folders, they share the naming conventions of data 001. We're going to want to do the same thing. Just go to st2. And then, all of these right here, these are what we call debug files for the program Woolwise. Well, Wise, but I just like calling it Woolwise. The program Woolwise is what allows all audio in the game to function. It plays back the general audio, the music, everything. Anything audio related is played back in there. Now, you're going to notice these two. These are honestly worthless to us. You can ignore all these. Anything that has BGM in the name, that is the juicy part, the juicy thing that we need. So it has actually just occurred to me that I had been looking in the wrong folder. That is my bad. What I meant to be looking in was ST1. Just imagine I was talking about everything, but with the folder ST1, the same one in data 001. And now, like I said, we can ignore all these files, and I'm just going to look through this. And immediately, the stuff that we were looking for, Bladewolf stuff, we can immediately see the juicy things that we need. Now, you might be wondering what all this garbage is in here. You can ignore all of it. The only things that we need is stuff underneath this event tab. We don't need to know anything else over here, although switches could be helpful. These are totally optional, though. They aren't fully necessary. But the things that we need are events. Now, remember how I brought up Woolwise before? How Woolwise functions in-game is that the game calls back these events in-game. These events have names, or IDs, but specifically we want these names, and the game, it calls for a certain event to be played, and then in-game that event happens. So for example, anytime Raiden swings his sword, a few or more events play to play back the audio. And that's how Woolwise functions for any game, period. It uses an event system, and when an event is triggered by the game, it calls that event, and then it plays back the audio. Now, for our purposes though, we want any Bladewolf related events here, because these are the juicy things, the important things that we need to know. Now, you might be asking why. Why would we want that? The reason why is because we're going to put these events and such, anything related to Bladewolf, inside of Woolwise. And it's going to allow us to build a custom B&K around this track. And effectively replace the music with our own custom music. And now that we're back here, I want you to just remember the name of the debug TXT that we found. You see the name? R100. That is the file we're going to want to look for in data 001. Because all these are debug files, information files for the actual files inside of data 001. So then we're just going to go to ST1, and then we're going to find that file, R100. Just going to search that, R100. Why isn't it searching? There we go. And now, we have the file that we need. This is the file that we need to edit. Real quick, I'm just going to copy that file. And you don't need to follow what I'm doing. You can have a folder wherever you want. I'm just putting it here for convenience's sake. I'm just going to make a new folder and then copy, paste that file that we need in here. Now, this is an important part. We are going to find the application F-servo, and then we're just simply going to run it. Now, we're going to go back to the folder we made, or wherever you have the file in question that we need. You're going to go to F-servo, and then you're going to drag and drop that file into F-servo, and it will generate a near to Blender extracted this DAT file, and then all this info in here. So you can actually ignore all of this for now. Don't worry about any of this. We can just exit out of that and then leave this how it is. And now we're on to the most important step, period. You're going to download the Woolwise program. I have it linked below. And then you're just going to run it. Woolwise. We're going to click New. And I'm just going to name this BladeWolf Tutorial Boss. And then boom, we have this. Notice how it immediately puts us in the Event tab. This is the part where we want to start rebuilding these events. You can ignore most things in Woolwise. Just immediately first put yourself in the layout interactive music. It's just helpful. And now we're going to start adding the various BladeWolf related events. We're going to go back to the debug log, and then we're just going to add events that are related to BladeWolf. Anything that has wolf in the name specifically is going to be helpful to us. And now, boom, we have that done. All these events are what controls what happens in the fight. So for example, with the naming BGM BladeWolf Gecko, you can probably remember in the boss fight that it's during the second part where BladeWolf retreats, and then he calls upon more backup, specifically a Gecko, and then the guitar solo plays. This is that event that triggers that to happen in-game. We have options to edit this event. However, let's say you want to be totally sure that these events are the same ones that are being played in-game. Thankfully, there is actually a tool that allows you to do this. Now we're loading into the BladeWolf fight. Immediately in the top left, as you can... Why am I playing as Jetstream Sam? Wait, that's weird. What the fuck? Okay, so I'm gonna be honest, I don't actually know what's happening, but that won't stop us. Now, look in the top left. You're gonna notice underneath BGM events, multiple events being played. The one that we want is the one that has wolf in the name. That's the juicy one that we want. So I don't know what's happening with my mods right now, but more importantly, we're just gonna beat up BladeWolf, and then get to the next stage. Wait, why am I... I'm not dealing damage. Hang on. I don't actually know what's happening right now. Okay, don't worry, people. I fixed the issue. Well, mostly? Alright, I'm dealing damage now, so that's all I care about. So like I mentioned, we're just going to get to phase 2. And then also in the top left, you're going to notice a few different events happen. These events are very helpful for us because it allows us to know what happens in-game depending on the event. Because otherwise we wouldn't know for sure with just the debug log. So yeah, BGM ASI is a totally optional thing, but it can be helpful for us to know how each event is being played back in-game and how to correspond the events in Woolwise to what happens in-game. So for example, after watching that gameplay, you'll notice that the runaway will happen when BladeWolf, runs away for the first time. Runaway is for the Runaway 2, and you get the idea. This is for when the soldiers appear on screen. This is probably for when you restart the fight. This is what happens when you get your results for the fight. This is probably for when BladeWolf dies, if I had to guess, and you get the idea. The events are usually self-explanatory, And if they aren't, you can just double check with BGM ASI, so then you're totally sure with what they do. And now this is the fun part. This is the part where it's honestly really open-ended, and the only requirements are being pretty creative. So for example, this is the event that triggers when you load into the Blade Wolf boss fight. This is honestly pretty self-explanatory. However, like I said, these are events. But for the event to do anything, you have to assign it actions. Now, we're going to give this a very simple action. We're just going to give it the play action. Because, when you start the checkpoint, you want to play something. Now, you might be wondering, what is it playing? Well, that's where we have to assign it to an object, which we don't have any in the interactive music hierarchy. This is where creativity comes into play, if I'm being honest. Now, OIs can be finicky, and all of this UI can be overwhelming, but so long as you know what you're doing, there's only so many things that you need to do. So first, we're going to set this parent container, and then we're just going to name it Blade Wolf, just to keep things organized, that's all. It's not necessary or anything, it's just to keep things nice and organized. Now next, we're gonna make these music playlist containers, and we're just gonna make a few of them, because we're gonna want at least a few of them. And then I'm just gonna make this as an outro. And then we're gonna name these pretty simple things like intro for the introduction of your music, your custom music in question, loop. And then, because this song is unique to other songs, we're gonna give it a retreat. We're going to name this Retreat, for when Blade Wolf retreats and calls upon his friends. But as a reminder, you can keep this as creative as you want. The biggest things to remember is that you set this parent container, what's it called again? Music switch container, as the parent of all of these, and then these are the actual juicy things that playback stuff in-game. This is what we call the WOI's hierarchy. Everything goes underneath the interactive music hierarchy, default work unit, and then you just name the music switch container, and then we make all the things inside of it. Now I'm going to make another one called Gecko for when the guitar solo happens, in case you want special music to play there. We're going to add another one for in-between music. So like while Blade Wolf is like calling upon his friends, like you could use this container to call that. And now the part that we want to do here is to just start assigning events to things in here. So for example, let's say that we wanted the exit to play the outro to the song, like for when Blade Wolf dies. First of all, just going to quickly name that outro. We're going to go to events, Wolf exit, and then we're going to go, and then we're just going to select that part of the hierarchy, the outro. And then we're going to add another special thing, because the events have a lot of properties. You can see there's a lot of options, but then we're only going to use the two things. We're going to use play and then stop, and we're going to click stop all except. We're going to go to browse, and then it's going to stop all music currently happening except for the outro. And then maybe we're going to add this. We're going to give it a small fade out. Maybe a small delay for everything that's fading out, all the music that was previously playing, and that's also going to play the outro at the same time. And then boom, this will just work in-game. And this is basically how we want all the events to function. We're just going to assign them various things that we want the game to do when it plays back the event, when it plays the stuff in the event. Like for example, for when Blade Wolf runs away, you could do another stop all except and then play another object. This is honestly where creativity is important and where you have the freedom to do what you want. Because the only necessary things that you absolutely have to do is just, import audio and then assign that audio to events with the play action. There are no 100% technical things you need to do. A lot of the music modding process for MGR, and actually just using WOIs in general, is just being creative in how you use it. There's no right way to use it. And then right here, it's just for when you load the Blade Wolf fight. Now, we're at the step that where I actually can't help you much more from here. There's only so many things I can do to help. However, there are a few things I'll go over first. Now, I'm just going to put some audio into this, like nothing special. I'm just going to grab like a random thing, like whatever this audio is. It doesn't matter what the audio is, just for the sake of this tutorial. But whatever this audio is, it's your custom audio that you want to play back in-game. Now, if you remember in the Events tab, the Gecko event, where's it going to go? The stop all, except we're going to select Gecko, because that's the thing that we want to play. We're going to go to play, and then we're just going to stop on Gecko. We're going to have a small fade out to this, just so it sounds more natural in game. And then boom. Whatever this audio is, it's going to play back in game. However, at the current moment, this audio will not play back anything whatsoever because it's not the right file type. We have to go to this tab after double clicking on this. You have to go to Conversion Settings, Edit, and then we're just going to input some very basic things. You have to set the sample rate to this, set the format to Vorbis, and then set this to high. All of these are the correct settings for your audio to play back properly in game. Then we're just going to click Convert, and then it's going to convert it to the WEM file type, the file type that MGR likes the most. So it's 41 kilobytes. It's absolutely minuscule now. So now it'll be able to play back in-game. Another important thing to do here is to go to the Sound Banks tab, and then we're just going to add a new sound bank. We're just going to call this Blade Wolf. We're going to add modded to the name. Oh, I can't put parentheses there. Just Blade Wolf modded. We're going to double click this, and then we're going to add the hierarchies that we need, specifically Interact Music hierarchy, and then the events. And then that's literally it. Then the sound bank itself is perfectly ready to be used. So now, technically speaking, we have a fully functioning music mod that will play back in-game. Because if we go over all the steps we've done, we have this event that's going to trigger these actions to happen. The game calls the event, and then the event, with the WebEyes programming, it does these things. And these things are corresponded to this little object in the music hierarchy where you can play around with stuff. It's just going to play back at Gecko. And one little thing I forgot to mention is that for the audio to playback period, you do actually have to edit the playlist. So how playlists work is that you can customize them in a way where you have the playlist itself, and then when you put audio inside of the playlist, the child of the playlist, you need to double click on the playlist, make sure you're in the interactive music layout, and then you drag in that audio in question just into the playlist, and then you can edit how it plays back. Currently, how this works is if I were to add another audio, regardless if it's the same audio or different audio, how it's going to work is, because it's a sequence continuous, it's going to play back this, and then play back this in that order. But then it's going to keep going until there's nothing. If I wanted this to be sequence step, it would go from one thing to the other and then just stop. And it wouldn't really loop at all. So 99% of the time you're going to use sequence continuous though, because sequence step is mostly never helpful. And if you want this audio to loop all the time, you set this to infinite. And to set it to infinite, you just click down. And as a reminder, I've already said this before, but this is the part of the process where I can help you out the very least, because this depends on how you want the music to play down, how to play back in-game, and is only really limited by your creativity. I would recommend using an external, audio editing program to get, a bunch of different files. So, for example, in whatever program you use, you build an intro file, an intro audio file, you build the loop file, you build the retreat file, all in a separate audio program, and then you input the audio using input audio files, and then you put the audio in yourself. And then the same principle goes for the events tab even, Because as soon as you know what event corresponds with how it's being played back in game, when it's being played back in game, stuff is only limited by what you want to do and how you want to do it. And you have all these options. You only need to use stop and play though for like 90% of music modding. Occasionally mute, but mostly just stop and play. So that's only really limiting by how you want stuff to work. There's nothing in specific that I can do to help you. It's just something that you have to innately learn. Oh, and actually one last quick thing that I should do before I forget. We're going to add a new audio bus, and then I'm just going to name this BGM. Then we're going to double click on Blade Wolf, the same music switch container. We're going to go General Settings, and then set this to BGM. This just allows the music to like deafen and be quieter when you pause the game and stuff, or like when the music loads in game. This is just helpful because BGM is the name of the bus and it follows the bus. Now this is an optional part, but I'm just going to go over this real quick. If we want the music to be quieter while you have blade mode on, we're going to set the state BGM Zengeki. We add on and then off. We're going to go to BGM Zengeki, and then we're going to add a new one of these things from off to on with time 1. And then that's all we have to do in this tab, the Game Syncs tab. We go to Audio, we go to Blade Wolf, we go to RTPC, and then we add... Wait, shit, no, I meant state. We go to this, BGM Zengeki. We go to the on, and then we activate a percentage for the low pass filter. This is what deafens the audio when you blade mode during the fight. And now, everything is done. And all you have to do is just, customize and make the audio to your liking. And kind of just do whatever comes to mind and how you want it to work. Because as I've said a few times now, a lot of WoWise you kind of have to do yourself. Because as soon as you know the basics, you just have to get creative and do what you want. But the two things you just gotta remember is be creative with events, know what you're doing with the events, know when they're being played back in game, and then you build the hierarchy, and then you assign events to the stuff in the hierarchy. And then as soon as you're comfortable with what you're done, and you remember to assign this in the sound banks thing, we're going to go to Layout, Sound Bank, we're going to click this, click Windows, click English, and then we're going to click Generate. And then you're going to look for wherever your WoWise project file is. I wouldn't be able to tell you where that is. However, if we were going to just quickly click Save, and then close WoWise, then we're going to open WoWise again, it will tell you the directory to the folder right here. It's going to show me the full file path to wherever the document is, if you need to know where that is. I'm just going to navigate to that real quick. And boom, I've navigated to the folder. We're going to go here, and then inside of the project file for WoWise, we're going to go to the folder called Generated Sound Banks, Windows, and then here is our modded sound bank. This is a BNK file. I've already explained what BNK file does, but this is the BNK file that's going to play back our custom audio in-game. At the current moment, the only audio I've put in here, and the only event that it's calling is the Gecko event. That's going to play back audio for when the Gecko happens. So all I want to do... Oh, and by the way, this is what the debug log for it looks like. As you can see, it's very similar to this one, except way less crazy. And it's just, kind of what you'd expect to see. The debug log. So now we're going to take our modded BNK, we're going to control exit just to move the file, and then we're going to go on back to wherever you put this original file. The Blade Wolf boss fight DAT. We're going to go into here, and then into here, and then we're just going to paste the file like so into here. And now you might be wondering, how exactly does this do anything? So DAT files are what the game loads when a certain boss fight happens. So, in other words, if we want our custom B&K to play back in-game to work, we need to repack this DAT file. And then to repack the DAT file, we just F-servo, we right-click on the DAT, and we click repack DAT. But we don't want to repack it yet. No, we don't want to repack this quite yet. The first thing that we need to do is we need to overwrite these things called WEM hooks. WEM hooks are basically how the game knows how to play back what audio. Now, you don't need to fully understand how that works. It's not necessary. However, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to generate a text file. Ignore this. Then you're going to name it wave.wem. It doesn't need to be anything special. Now, in WAS, we're going to go to WEM files, and we're going to want to kill the hooks that the Blade Wolf music uses. This is an example of a hook. Oh, right, you can't hear that, but I just heard audio. This is for when the Blade Wolf break happens, quote unquote, or for when Blade Wolf, retreats to get more backup. This is a hook, and then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to kill this hook. Just get rid of the hook, because it's not helpful to us, and it interferes with our music mod. So now, we're just going to select wave.wem, go back here, and then we're going to replace the WEM. It doesn't look like it, but this has been replaced. We're going to do the same for all of these, and especially the guitar solo, because this is the thing that we just modded. You always want to mute you always want to mute whatever your custom audio modding, because otherwise it's going to fuck with your mod. We're going to click save, notice how it's done, exit out of this, and then, oh wait, I'm actually a moron, I'm sorry about that. Sorry, don't close out of that, that was me being dumb. I'm just going to drag this back in here. Give me the old one file. Sorry, I'm just being a moron. Then I'm just going to go here and then repack DAT. And then I'm going to repack a DAT into here. Then I'm just going to repack a DAT into here. Done. And now this is our new modded DAT that will play back our custom audio. And then this is actually our completed mod. We have officially made a music mod for the game Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. It's that simple. Now, you're probably wondering, how the hell do we install this mod now that we've actually made it? So remember how in data001.cpk it was inside of the folder st1? So Metal Gear Rising, it has this weird quirk where to install mods, all you have to do is you just have to make a folder in the game data folder, and then you just name it whatever folder it was inside of the CPK file. And for whatever reason, it'll read this file before it reads CPK files. And we can take advantage of this, and then just put our modded our modded file, and we just put it into here. And it'll mimic the way the same file is read in the same CPK, except it'll read this instead of the vanilla one. And then boom, we have our music mod entirely done and ready to play back in game. Real quick, we're just going to test this. And then there's our custom audio, just played right there. And now, yeah, we have officially made a music mod for the game Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. I hope you found this music modding tutorial helpful, and that'll be all from me.